Here we have a math problem in IIT JEE Main. Okay, let's go to the question. Let absolute value of Z1 negative 8 negative 2i less than or equal to 1 and absolute value of Z2 negative 2 positive 6i less than or equal to 2, where Z1 and Z2 are complex numbers. Then the minimum value of absolute value of Z1 negative Z2. Okay, first let's understand what is this stuff. That is absolute value of Z1 and negative Z2. And the question says both Z1 and Z2 are complex numbers. So we can define Z1 as the complex number A positive BI and Z2 as C positive DI. Then the point corresponding to this complex number can be written as a comma B. That is the x coordinate is a real value and y coordinate is a imaginary value, because here B is the coefficient of I, and the point corresponding to this complex number is C comma D. Okay, now let me draw a complex plane. The organ plane, we have the x is the horizontal axis, that is real axis, and the vertical axis y is the imaginary axis. And now let me mark the first point A comma B at somewhere else over here. This is A comma B, and let me mark the point C comma D at somewhere else over here. Okay, now I want to find the distance between the 2 points A comma B and C comma D. So to get the distance between these 2 points A comma B and C comma D, what I have to do is I have to find the difference between these two complex numbers, that is Z1 negative Z2, and I have to take modulus, that is the absolute sign. So the absolute value of Z1 negative Z2 gives the distance between the 2 points A comma B and C comma D. Okay, so now we can now we have understood what does this one mean. That is the distance between the 2 points given by the complex numbers Z1 and Z2. And according to the question, we have to find the minimum value of this absolute value of Z1 negative Z2. That is, we have to find the minimum distance between these two complex numbers Z1 and Z2. Okay, now let's consider the other stuff we have in this question. Let me erase this stuff for just a moment. Okay, now let me consider this particular stuff over here, that is absolute value of Z1 negative 8 negative 2i less than or equal to 1, and here absolute value of Z1. Let me factor negative sign from these two terms. When I factor negative sign out, then I'm getting 8 positive 2i inside the parenthesis less than or equal to 1. Okay, now let's understand this stuff. Already we know that Z1 is a complex number that's given in the question itself, and this is a complex number 8 positive 2i. So here we find the difference between two complex numbers Z1 and this one, and also we take modulus for this one. Clearly this stuff gives the distance between the two complex numbers Z1 and this 8 positive 2i, and also the distance has to be less than or equal to 1. So the distance between these two complex numbers can be equal to 1 or it has to be less than 1. That is, the maximum distance is 1. Now let's do the same stuff for this one as well. Let me write this one over here. That is the absolute value of Z2 negative 2 positive 6i less than or equal to 2. Okay, now let me take absolute value of Z2. Now let me factor negative sign from these two terms. When I factor negative sign from these two terms, then I'm getting negative of 2 negative 6i less than or equal to 2. So again, so here we find the difference between these two complex numbers, and we have taken absolute sign for this one. So this stuff gives a distance between the complex number Z2 and this one, and also the distance between these two complex numbers can be equal to 2 or it has to be less than 2. That is, a maximum distance between these two complex numbers is 2. And also the point corresponding to this complex number 8 positive 2i is 8 comma 2. Let me write it over here. And the point corresponding to this complex number is 2 comma 6 negative 6. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to draw a complex plane. On the complex plane, I have to plot these 2 points, 8 comma 2 and 2 comma negative 6. Okay, let me sketch a complex plane. Here we have a complex plane, that is the horizontal axis, that is x-axis the real axis and y-axis is the imaginary axis. Okay, now let me plot this point 8 comma 2, that is x coordinate is 8 and y coordinate is 2. Then we have the point over here 8 comma 2, and let me name this point as A. And now let me plot this point 2 comma negative 6, that is x coordinate is 2 and y coordinate is negative 6, and we have the point we have over here 2 comma negative 6, and let me name this point as B. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle around this point A with 1 unit radius. That is, I have drawn a circle by taking A comma 2, the point A comma 2 as a center, and radius just 1 unit. So why do I have to draw a circle over here with center 8 comma 2 and radius 1 unit? There is a reason, I'll tell you later. And also let me draw a circle with center 2 comma negative 6 and radius 2 units over here. Let me do it. Let me sketch a circle around the point 2 comma negative 6. Okay, let me do it. Okay, now I've drawn two circles. So one circle is drawn with center at this point 8, 2 and radius 1 unit. The other circle is drawn over here with center 2, -6 and radius 2 units. So why should I draw this circle with 1 unit radius, and why should I draw this circle with 2 units radius? Because the distance between the complex number z1 and 8 positive 2i, I mean the maximum distance between these two complex numbers is 1. So that's why I've drawn a circle with center 8, 2 and radius 1 unit. And here the maximum distance between this complex number z2 and 2, -6i is 2. Since the maximum distance over here is 2, I've drawn a circle with 2, -6 as center and 2 units radius. Now, let me consider this particular circle. It has center 8, 2 and radius 1 unit. So here, where do we have the complex number z1? Over here. So this information says that the distance, the maximum distance between the complex number z1 and this 8 positive 2i is 1. Then the complex number z1 should be at somewhere else on the circle, or it has to lie inside the circle. For example, if I consider the complex number z1 at somewhere else at any point on the circle, what is the distance between this complex number z1 and this point 8, 2? That is clearly 1 unit. That's the radius of the circle. In case if the complex number z1 lies inside the circle, the distance between the complex number z1 and this point 8, 2 is less than 1. So it means the condition what we have over here. There is a distance between z1 and this complex number is less than or equal to 1. What if this complex number z1 lies outside of the circle? So this one does not satisfy the inequality over here, because when the complex number z1 lies outside the circle, the distance between this complex number z1 and the point 8, 2 is greater than 1, so it does not satisfy this inequality. So satisfying the first inequality, the complex number z1 has to be at any point on the circle over here, or it has to lie inside the circle. Now let's do the same stuff for this one. So the complex number z2 must be at any point on the circle over here, or it has to be lie inside the circle. Because if I consider the complex number z2 at some point on the circle, the distance between the complex number z2 and the point 2, -6 is exactly 2, because the radius of this circle is 2 units. In case if the complex number z2 lies inside the circle, the distance between this one and this point is less than 2, so it satisfies the inequality we have over here. In case the complex number z2 lies outside the circle, clearly the distance between this one and this one is greater than 2. It does not satisfy the inequality. So now a point is clear. So for this circle, the complex number z1 has to be at any point on the circle, otherwise it has to be inside the circle, and complex number z2 has to be at any point on the circle here, or it has to lie inside the circle. Okay, now what I am going to do is I am going to find the distance between the two centers of the circle. I mean the distance between the 2 points A and B. Okay, how can you find the distance between these 2 points A and B? So we can use the distance formula, because we know the 2 points very well. Okay, now let me find the distance between these 2 points A and B on the next page. The point A is 8, 2 and the point B is 2, -6. Okay, to get the distance between these 2 points, let me consider point A as x1, y1 and the point B as x2, y2. And the formula to find the distance between the 2 points is x2 negative x1 the whole square positive y2 negative y1 the whole square. Then we have AB equals to square root of, we can plug in this 2 for x2. Then we get 2 negative, and for x1 we have 8, 2 negative 8 the whole square, and for y2 we have -6, and for y1 we have 2, then -6 -2 the whole square. Then we get AB equals to square root of 2 negative 8 is -6, that is -6 the whole square, and here -6 -2 will become -8, that is -8 the whole square. Then we get AB equals to square root of -6 the whole square is 36. And -8 the whole square is 64. Then we get AB equals to square root of 100, and the value of square root of 100 is just 10. Okay, now I got the distance between the 2 points A and B, that is 10. So the length of this line segment AB is 10 units. Okay, now our aim is to find the minimum value of absolute value of z1 negative z2. That is, I have to find the minimum distance between these 2 points z1 and z2. As I said already, so z1 can be at any point on this circle over here, otherwise it has to lie inside the circle. And z2 can be at any point on this circle, otherwise it has to lie at somewhere else inside the circle. For example, if I consider z2 over here and z1 over here, then can we get the minimum distance between z1 and z2? No, definitely not. This can be the maximum distance. So to get the minimum distance between Z1 and Z2, we have to consider the complex number Z1 should be over here and Z2 should be over here. When I have Z1 over here and Z2 over here, the distance between the two complex numbers Z1 and Z2 is the minimum. Already we got the length of AB. What is the length of AB? That is 10. Okay, now to get the minimum value, let me write the stuff over here. Minimum value of absolute value of Z1 negative Z2. That is the minimum distance between Z1 Z2. What we have to do is from this total length 10, we have to subtract the radius of this circle and also the radius of this circle. Here the radius is 2, here the radius is just 1 unit. So when I subtract the radius of this circle and the radius of this circle from the length of AB, I'll be getting the minimum distance between Z1 and Z2, that is 10 negative. So let's subtract the radius of this circle, that is 1. Let's subtract the radius of this circle, that is 2. Then we get 10 negative 3, which is equal to 7. That is the minimum distance between the two complex numbers Z1 and Z2 is 7. Therefore, the minimum value of modulus of Z1 negative Z2 is 7. We find 7 in answer choice D. The correct answer choice for this question is D.